Now the other kind of declaration statement is your DC. Okay, so it stands for declare constant. It is associated with a label that is optional and a value that is written in single quotes. Okay, so what it does is basically places this value in a memory word that is referenced by this symbol. Okay, so it is stands for declare constants, which construct memory words containing the constants. Okay, it is a kind of initialization procedure that takes place. So if you look at this example, there is a memory word which is given the name ONE. Okay, and in that memory word you are going to place the value 1. Okay, now you can have constants in the form of decimal, binary or hexadecimal, and that would be appropriately converted by the assembler. Now when we say DC, and it does stand for declare constant, but it is not actually declaring a constant. Okay, it basically it's used, this particular declaration statement are used to initialize the memory words. Okay, so the values that are present in that memory word, okay, when you use define constant and put some value in that memory word, they are not protected by the assembler. Okay, that means that in that memory word you can put in a new value using statements like this: move MBREG 1. So whatever value is there in BREG, that is B register, it would be put into the memory word that is referenced by 1. So it is not actually protecting the contents or the numbers or values that are present in the memory word represented by 1. It's just a name and does not actually mean a constant. Now if you wish to use constants in assembly programs, okay, you can either use an immediate operand or it can be a literal. Okay, now if it is an immediate operand, the underlying target machine architecture should support that feature. That is, it should have the capability to recognize that an immediate operand happens to be a constant. Okay, so for this instruction would be converted to an equivalent machine instruction, a single machine instruction. Okay, the other way or the way that we are going to study of having constants in our program is with the help of literals. So when you are going to use literals, the syntax is equal to sign and the value put in single quotes. Okay, here how we are going to make this a constant. Now if you look at this symbol, this happens to be a literal. This is the syntax equal to and 5. So if you look at this particular literal, now this happens to be a constant. Okay, now when a literal is encountered by an assembler, what it does is automatically produces these two statements. That is, it will associate, it will give a symbolic name, or it will give a memory word, a name, a symbol name called as FIVE, and in that FIVE I will place the number 5. So this particular symbol names are not available to the programmer. Since this symbol name is not available to the programmer is not able to move any contents into that particular memory word. So if it encounters an add AREG A register comma 5, this literal, what it does is it simply gives this, in this case it has given a symbol name 5, okay, to a memory word, and in that memory word it has placed the value 5. Since we do not know what is the symbol name here associated or generated by the assembler for this particular value, we cannot change it. We means the user or the programmer is not able to change that value during the execution of the program. Okay, and the third kind of statements happen to be assembler directives. Now the assembler directives we have studied is start and end. They are basically instructions given to the assembler to perform certain actions during the assembly of the program. Like if you say start, and it means that the first word of the target program should be placed at the memory location that is specified by this constant, right? So if you say start 101, it means that the target program, the first instruction of the target program should be placed at location 101. Then you have another assembler directive called as end, called as operand specification. The syntax is end followed by operand specification, which basically is optional. End say indicates the end of the program. Okay, if you do mention an operand specification, it basically means that when the object code is produced by the assembler is placed in memory, that the execution should start from the location that is specified by this operand specification. By default, it is the first line following start. Okay, so this basically mention what is the advantage of assembly level language program. The biggest advantage happens to be the use of symbolic operands instead of numbers, instead of remembering binary numbers in the form of zeros and ones. So this is the same program, previous program, where we calculated n factorial, and here we are just calculating n factorial by 2. That is, we are dividing whatever factorial we have obtained of a number by 2. So if you look at the assembly level language program, and if you look at the machine level language program that has been generated for this, you will see that when I want to change the program from a program to calculate n factorial to a program to calculate n factorial by 2, I need to make only one change in the assembly program, which is including the statement divide the value that you have obtained by 2. But if you look at the equivalent machine code, we see that all that is highlighted in red represent the changes that need to be made. So there are almost 11 changes that need to be made in this machine level language program if we have to simply have to calculate n factorial by 2 instead of n factorial. So this is the biggest advantage of assembly level language program. The number of changes made are less or comparatively fewer as compared to program written in machine level language. Now we look at a simple assembly scheme. Okay, in this we look at the design specification of an assembler, that is, to do a 2-pass assembler or to generate a 1-pass assembler, what steps need to be followed. Okay, the first is you need to identify the information that is necessary to perform a particular task. That is, if I want to convert an assembly program to its equivalent machine language, then what information is required so that I am able to perform that particular task? We have to identify that information. Once I have identified the information, it is necessary that I design suitable data structures so that I can record the information. Now once I have identified what information is necessary and I have suitable data structures to record that particular information, I need to determine what processing should I do so that I can store that data into that data structure which is going to hold that particular information. So I need to determine the processing that is necessary to obtain and maintain the information. And finally, I need to determine how much processing is required or what steps need to be followed so that eventually I get my task done. This is the synthesis and analysis phase. If you look at any language processor, it basically consists of an analysis phase and it consists of a synthesis phase. If you consider any language processor, a language processor is basically one. You can consider it to be like a compiler that performs translation of source language to an equivalent target program. So if you consider any language processor, it basically consists of two phases, the analysis phase and the synthesis phase. So whenever a source program is given to a language processor, it first goes through this analysis phase where it would actually create tokens. That is, it will break the code, it will break the source program into pieces that are called as tokens, and then it would then give it an intermediate representation, or the intermediate code is created, following which you get the synthesis phase. And in the synthesis phase you are going to generate the equivalent machine language which is required for the source program. So if you consider any language processor, there are two phases. The source program is given to the analysis phase, which breaks them into pieces called as tokens and creates an intermediate representation for the source program. and this intermediate representation is used by the synthesis phase. With the help of this intermediate representation called as intermediate code, it would then generate the equivalent target program. That is, it would synthesize the code or generate the equivalent machine language code.